Welcome to the Exchange Video Library. We are here with Katherine Raskob, the Chief Executive Officer of Fundraising Institute Australia, which is the national peak body for professional fundraising. Welcome, Katherine.
Thank you, Julia. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Let's talk more about ethical fundraising and the role of the CEO and the boards in ensuring that their organisations are complying to ethical fundraising. Can you delve into this topic for us today?
Sure. It's absolutely critical that a leader of an organisation, the CEO and the board of directors understand their requirements around ethical best practice fundraising. It is a risk if fundraising isn't approached in an ethical and best practice way. So I think having a conversation around this issue is really, really important. So first of all, an organization can ensure they understand the requirements of ethical best practice fundraising if they join Fundraising Institute Australia, as you said, the peak body for fundraising in Australia. And we advance professional best practice fundraising so that the sector can continue to sustain itself into the future, that we can continue to rely on the support and the generosity of donors in all the work that we do on behalf of beneficiaries. So it is really, really critical that leaders understand their responsibility for ethical best practice in fundraising. Once you join FIA, you agree to abide by the FIA Code. The FIA Code is a code of conduct. It's a self-regulatory framework for ethical best practice fundraising. And it helps members to understand their requirements and achieve best practice fundraising. So it gives you a practical understanding of the code and how to conduct fundraising in accordance with the best practice requirements. So all FIA members and any person who's involved in fundraising, including CEOs and board members, should undertake the code training. The code training is delivered online. It's a roughly 2-hour self-paced program, and it introduces the concepts of the FIA Code of Conduct, the framework for fundraising in a professional, ethical, and best practice way, and outlines the things that you can do in your fundraising practice to achieve it. So I highly recommend that all people involved in fundraising, whether or not they are FIA members, undertake the FIA Code course, because it really gives you a really strong understanding of how to apply ethical best practice in your fundraising, and therefore reduces the risk to you and to your organization for things to go wrong.
Excellent. Thank you, Katherine. And also just in there, maybe we can pick up a little bit around vulnerability, which we have a separate video on, but certainly for the CEO and for boards to be across this area of managing vulnerability in interactions. Can you share a little on that?
Sure. It's becoming increasingly critical that fundraisers understand the issue of vulnerability in donors and supporters. I think, we are living in very, very challenging times where large proportions of our population are in vulnerable circumstances, and those vulnerable circumstances might be temporary. For example, someone who has experienced the impacts of bushfires or floods, and they might be long-lasting. For example, a person who has become in a state of dementia, or an inability to manage their own finances. So this issue of vulnerability is very challenging, and one which CEOs and leaders of organizations certainly need to be aware, and they need to understand how to help their teams listen for those cues and clues, how to understand what vulnerability is, how it can present itself, and so that they can manage it effectively for the good of both their organization and the entire fundraising sector.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Katherine. We do have a separate video here in the library that goes into more detail about the FIA code and what it covers. So please do jump on the link to have a look at that. We also have a separate video on the course that FIA have developed, and congratulations on that, Katherine, for managing vulnerability in donor and supporter interactions. So please jump on the links below to find out more about that. If this is helpful, stay in touch with us, and please also subscribe, like, or share. And thanks very much, Katherine, for joining us again today.